You're listening to KZUU 90.7 FM Pullman. We're a broadcast service of the ASWSU. I'm your host, DJ Daisy. Welcome to episode 9 of What's New, Wazzu. I am joined here today by my philosophy professor. Thank you for being here so much, and go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, thanks for having me. Hello, all the Pullmanians and the Pelusians out there. This is Dr. Fagiano. I'm from the PPPA here at Washington State and teach philosophy, intro philosophy classes, other courses, and we're going to have a good conversation today.
Yes. For those of you listening, kind of the goal of this interview is just to get to know Dr. Fagiano. I'd love to know how he became a philosopher, what his journey in philosophy looks like, and how it's led you here to be a professor. Right. You know?
Well, it's not like the career choice that I would suggest everybody makes. Like, you should really become a philosophy professor. It's tough. I guess I got into it just by pure existential dread and wonder. I mean, really, it has to do with wonder, Yeah. And that's why I think every single person alive is a philosopher. Because everybody wonders, what's going on here in this world? We're just kind of thrown, Heidegger says, we're thrown into existence. What is this all about? Yeah. So I think it's a really good move for people to practice philosophy and to think of themselves as being philosophical. Because, we grow up with certain ideas or certain habits of thought that we don't necessarily have any evidence for. And, when we grow older, it's good to make ourselves. And part of making ourselves has to do with, I think, being a little philosophical.
I agree.
Not just about the nature of reality, but what can I do in the world? Yeah. That's an open-ended thing. And I just suggest, don't sell yourself short, Or anybody should not sell themselves short as far as, what could possibly be. So I guess that's the answer. It's existential dread and wonder, like we all have.
You've always wondered.
I just happen to get a paycheck from it.
Was there a certain point where you realized that this is something that I can pursue both for myself and for my career?
Yeah, that's a great question because I tell you the truth. I think it's as most people early on in life, they're trying to find themselves in the world, and you get a lot of doubt. I remember telling myself, I can never be a professor. Maybe some people still think that. but it's one of those things that, you have the inclination or you have the passion or love for the ideas. And then you're like, well, how can I actually survive?
Yeah.
With anything, with radio broadcasting, you love it. So then the question is, how do you survive? So that was the big question for me. I want to keep doing this. Can I survive, teaching philosophy? And I would just suggest that everybody has that, and sometimes we don't really focus on maybe what we're more passionate or what we really love, or following what makes us blissful and makes us feel alive because of the career issue, because of the money. And that's fine and dandy and everything. But, for myself, that was a big trick. How do I make this happen? That where I could actually practice philosophy and get, a paycheck, however small or however big it might be. So,
do you think it's possible to get paid to do the thing that you love?
Well, that's the thing, it doesn't always have to be a career, because it doesn't have to be something to get paid for what you love. You can always do it as a hobby, or like I said, everybody's a philosopher, so I think everybody should be philosophical. But I think, we only live once, I guess, and we might as well go for, if this is it.
Yeah.
Why not? If it brings you bliss, it brings you joy, just like listening to music, go for it. Don't let anybody tell you can't, because they're running up against their own demons or thoughts that go against them. Yeah. And a lot of times when people say you can't do it, it's just basically, they're just projecting.
So it's more about them than you.
Absolutely, yeah. But I would say, if you can make that, you have George Carlin over there, and we won't say no one can see it back down in Radio Land in your homes. But George Carlin had this thing where he said, he had a moment in his life where he was, I think it was the 50s, he was catering to a lot of hey, how you doing, buddy? Sort of that comedy towards that crowd, rich, people. And then he, went through the 60s and he changed. He's like, what, I'm making this change. But even if I can just survive on the weekends, I'm doing it because I love it. And so we all have those moments where we're given that option. Could I go make better money doing other things than philosophy? Probably, But then, how much is it going to relate to my feeling of being alive? Which I think is very important, yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and you can always change, It's like you can always change careers.
True.
A career means a course. You're taking a course, a path.
Yeah.
And so you can always change the career. You can always change the path. I'm not suggesting someone, I'm not making a moral suggestion that everybody should do that. But, if you feel it deep down, I can't do this thing that I'm doing anymore. I want to take another career, another path. Go for it, I think. It's not going to cause too many people harm. I think it's good.
I think you're right. I think a lot of people are afraid of doing exactly that. Like they feel unfulfilled in what they're doing, but they know that they've been told it's the right thing to be doing.
Sure,
and
yeah.
There's a little disconnect there.
And there might be really great reasons to stick with doing what you're doing and not maybe what you want. Like, for instance, being responsible for other people. That's a wonderful thing. Like, you have kids. You want to support them. That's a beautiful thing. So that's why I can't give any sort of advice like, hey, y'all got to go after what you want. Because there's all these other ways of experiencing a good life.
Right.
For my own self, I just felt like, it just seems like it's me. Maybe my mom dropped me on my head too many times. I don't know what happened. But anyway, the point is, like, I always felt like I wanted to study philosophy. I was just curious,
Yeah.
It's just curiosity. Like, it's so strange. I don't want to freak people out there, but it's like, it's very strange to be alive, It's very different.
The more you think about it, the weirder it gets.
Yeah, don't think too much at home, folks, about it, but it can be weird. I mean, Heidegger said it best. I mean, we're thrown into existence.
Yeah.
And what are we doing? What should we do? Tough questions.
Yeah.
Good luck with those, by the way. I don't know.
Worth pondering, though.
For sure. I think, reflection's important. A lot of times today, and again, this is no moral path I'm telling people to take, but I mean, I see myself as being massively distracted. And sometimes I just need to just stop everything. We have the iPhones and everything's just bombarded with tech. Sometimes we just need to, I need to just put things aside and just have moments of nothing else but reflection under the moonlight. Nothing else than that. Nothing stimulating me externally that has different interests, but like it's moving from me. So, right, we can be externally motivated or stimulated by the outside. I'm sure that's great too. But like sometimes we have to just set ourselves apart and just have that moment where I think, we have something that's moving from us. We're the mover of things instead of being moved of ourselves. Yeah. That's right. And I think that takes sometimes, quiet reflection or a time to pause,
That's a hard state to achieve. It's almost like being a sage.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned a sage because, whenever I'm on an airplane and someone says, hey, what do you do for a living? I'll say I'm a philosopher, and then they'll stop talking to me. And when I was younger, they was all like, what are you going to do with that? And I always joked and said, I'm going to become a sage.
Yes.
And then it would just stop it. I mean, it's such a crazy thing to do.
Yeah.
And so wild.
To do, really.
It just feels deep I feel it, within me. The sense of wonder. Like I do not know much. And many people don't. So I really admire, philosophers like Socrates who, knew the limit of what he could know and what he couldn't know.
Yeah.
That's what wisdom is for the ancients. I don't know if I obtained it, but, or what you could be and what you can't be. Like knowing the line. That's really in philosophy, wisdom, I think, at least for Socrates.
Yeah. It's a hard line to...
It's a hard line, and that's why even more you need to have your own personal reflection. Just shut everything off and just think about your life. And it's a really it's a great blessing. It's a great power we have. I mean, most of the animal kingdom are just worried about always surviving nonstop. You ever look at a squirrel real closely? I mean, it's like its head is like jerking around because it's probably built into its system, like the fear of a hawk coming by. We actually are built to be able to have moments where we can just rest and reflect and plan, which I think is a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree. On the topic of doing that self-reflection, that inner work, and how powerful it is, it makes me think of Marcus Aurelius and how and he was the most powerful man in the world, and yet he found it worthwhile to journal for himself. For no one else to read, but
for no one else,
his meditations were important enough for the most important man to do.
That's right, you know, and it's one of those types of, you know, ways to express yourselves, but also like, right, he's a person who had so much power, you know. I saw this video on him the other day, and he was talking about how all power corrupts, but it wasn't the case with Aurelius. He had all the power, he could have done anything, and yet, you know, maintaining this sort of life of stoicism, not being worrying about things you can't control, and having what we learned in class is apatheia, which may sound strange out there in Palouse land, but it's basically apathy. In other words, be apathetic to those things that move you but shouldn't. How do I decide what that is? No one can tell you, but you know, everybody's own experience, they realize that. But yeah, Marcus Aurelius was amazing, and yeah, it's something like, it's very therapeutic too. You know, philosophy is very therapeutic. This is what Wittgenstein, we're going to study Wittgenstein in a few weeks. This is what Wittgenstein said. It's very therapeutic, right? It's able to like work through our issues because we're able to reflect upon things and try to chart out our lives. And Aurelius knew this really well.
Yeah. Well, on that topic of like self-therapy, I've read a book on Stoicism, and one of the things I remember and how cool it was is that like when you are doing that therapy with yourself, whether you are right or wrong in the process, like only you are the witness of that. Like if you are saying stuff to yourself that is
interesting,
is like not logical, kind of irrational, at least you've made a fool of yourself in front of only yourself.
In silence,
you know?
That's what I try to do, the fool to myself as much as I can. But that's interesting, and that also makes it a, you know, we hear about this thing called safe space. I mean, something different, but this is a safe space as well, like to be able to just have those thoughts, you know, and then it shapes your conscious also. Yeah. Because you realize, like, sometimes you would think things in your mind you never would say in public because of how it would be interpreted, but you know, so the mind is sort of like a playground you know, for different types of thoughts to work their way out, and actually, you know, it has a lot of healing effect upon our lives, you know, and really shape, I think, our destiny as well. Yeah. And just having that time, and I think, like, you know, in our world today, it's just there's just not enough. I think people don't think they're so busy, you know, they don't have time for it. I would just say, and again, I never want to say any like thing to do like ethically, but I think, like, you know, try it. You know, it's one of those things. Give yourself the pleasure and give yourself the time to reflect upon things. You know, I think it's good. And converse with others. Like right now, like, folks, we did not plan this conversation. It's just coming out of us, you know? Yeah. So conversation's a beautiful thing because you have, like, it's like music. You get ecstatic. You come out of yourself, your normal way of thinking, and you're confronted with another. And the conversation goes, and it's transformative, just like music. Right? That's what music is. Yeah. Music is fundamentally transformative.
It's incredible.
Right.
So on top of music, since we're talking about it, okay. Oh God, I have so many things to ask you. Yeah. But let's start with every time you walk into class, you have your have your earbuds in. Yeah. What are you listening to?
I would just wear those so I could get on the radio with you. I don't listen to anything. I just said, hey, maybe I'll get on a radio station sometime if I pretend to listen to music.
That's so
yeah. So this is important. I think this is kind of like some of the things I was thinking about earlier. So it depends upon my mood, but I mean, here's the thing. So the whole gamut, you know, from opera to 60s music to rap, everything. Okay. Because I think, like, different types of traditions of music provide different sort of vibrations or energies for different purposes. No one's going to go to, like, I assume you all have parties here, you know, out there in Coogland. And, you know, no one's going to go like, hey, this is a great new tune that's out, but let's listen to some Mozart. It's like, it's not right for that, you know? It's not the right purpose. So different types of music create different vibrations and then are necessary for different purposes. Like if I'm going to go work out, which is rare, I'm not going to listen to, like, the Moonlight Sonata. Right. But if I want to be more contemplative, I would choose that. So I think, like, one of the things I would say about music is, like, expand your horizon because there's many different purposes music serves, different vibrations it causes, right? Yeah. So, so I try to be as eclectic as possible, but it really depends on mood, you know? Okay.
Is it equally dependent on your mood as well as what you're about to teach that day?
Oh, no. The teaching is kind of like go blank and just like blah, blah, blah. You know, I don't really put much thought into it. Sometimes it just happens to be like as a result of exploration. Because, like, here's the thing. We all know this. Like, the one thing about music that's the case is that it's, nowadays there's commercialization. Mm-hmm. So a lot of things are just present because we're hearing them because they're everywhere. And they support different commercial interests. Well, that's great. And there's nothing wrong with, listening to anything that's commercialized. And I love every type of music. But the question is, like, how much are we in control of what we're choosing? So a lot of times I just want to expand, and okay, let's listen to this or that and see what kind of thing happens,
Dip into each possible perspective there is.
Yeah,
that's to listen to.
That's right. That's kind of what you said there is like a quote from Emerson. He said, the greatest day is the one with the most perceptions, which is, when I think about music, that's right down my alley, Yeah. It's like, I've been listening a lot to, I always listen to, Beethoven, Mozart, Wagner, but I've been listening to a lot of more minimalism, which is very like Bachian, like contemporary Bach, which with a little twang. But then I'll go from that, and because I enjoy the patterns, Here's the thing: some music have certain patterns that I find more that resonate more with my mood, my temperament, right? But then shifting that and trying to listen to other types of sounds can really help transform yourself. I think it's, again, it's therapeutic, but it also has to do with having a variety of different sounds for the purpose of self-transformation. It's kind of how I think about it,
I like that.
Yeah. And here's another thing, last thing to say about that is that, the music we listen to the most is usually the ones we like the most. So I would say everybody go listen to the Liszt Transcendental Etudes 9 times, and you'll never stop listening to it, or Opus 111 by Beethoven. I mean, you won't listen, if you listen to it 9 times, I don't know why 9, but if you listen to it a number of times, you'll really start to get it, right? And then you start to participate in the meaning of the music, and why did the conductor make that decision? Why did the guitarist do that slide?
Pick up on the
nuances. So you pick up on the variations, and then that's a very pleasant aesthetic experience as well, to be able to participate in thinking about how the person's doing. Why did they choose that lyric?
And then taking that a step further and connecting it with what your life experience is at that point in time, and 10 years later you listen to the same song and you apply your own life to it in a new way.
It's like a Proustian memory, you have it's the same thing. Everybody listen to a real cheesy song that's about romance, it's meant for a 16-year-old commercially. But then if someone's going through a breakup, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. Other times in your different mood, you never would see that.
It's weird.
But this is interesting. When you talk about the link of musical sound or sound to event or sound to actual experiences, that makes it really wound up in our lives, right? So different vibrations of sound representing different memories. That's good stuff.
It's locked into your brain as a connection.
Yeah, that's right.
Sounds and those memories.
No, that's right. And sometimes they may not. You ever hear this say I just gotta get this song out of my head, sort of thing. Yeah. That happens a lot. But then if you have control over the memories or stuff, sometimes you almost can smell the room where you first heard it, or you sense the area, the climate where you heard the sound or the experience, and that makes it. I mean, we're kind of going deep here into music, but this is how it is. This is reality of it.
Yeah.
As far as these different dimensions, these different sorts of experiences to which they point or recall during the process.
On a philosophical exploration of this topic is, what are your thoughts on Pythagoras and his theory of what was it called exactly?
Music of the spheres.
The music of the spheres, exactly.
Well, nowadays with different cosmologies and all the telescopes we have, people don't really cotton on to this idea. I think it's interesting because I think, it's explained kind of, but the music of the spheres is this idea that the universe produces sound. So he thought about this because he thought that there were certain 10 planets and these numbers were he was very much a numerologist, but he's also created Pythagorean theorem. So it's okay. So I mean kind of kooky, but really in a gentle and very awesome, attractive way. And so this idea of music of the spheres is that the universe makes sound, and so the goal of our lives is to acclimate ourselves or be in accord with the most heavenly sounds. So planets moving, now you think about just the reasoning, and forget about whether it's true. It happens to be true, by the way, because we know that this is certain black hole has like been singing a B flat for eons.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so we know that there is sound. Why is the universe making sound? Well, it's just movement. You know, anything that has movement is going to create sound. Like think about all instruments.
Yeah.
If you strum a guitar, the vibration. You know, the air going through a trombone. It's the movement. So his reasoning is like that. Like there must be, heavenly sounds that are better. So it's very much an elitist way of thinking. Like, and so we can get too much into elitism. But I mean, like, if I started singing, everybody. Tune out here.
Yeah, please
don't. Please. So I won't sing, folks. But you can imagine, like, right? When it comes down to extremes, we know that there's better sounding things. So the question is, like, right? Is it objectively better? It doesn't seem that that's right. That's what he thought, right? So there's these heavenly sounds. And those heavenly sounds are just really sounds that are most in accord with what humans think is pleasant, like C or G chords are generally more pleasant than D minor.
Right.
Almost everybody, if you strum a D minor or a ding, most people would agree. But whether it's completely objective, I don't believe that. But that's basically what you're trying to say. So then Plato, I don't know if anybody wants to hear this part, but then Plato takes from Pythagoras this idea of another realm and talks about the forms. And it's based on Pythagoras. So then the whole history of philosophy, the whole history of thought is based on those two and this idea of another realm or whether it is real or right. That affect Christianity completely. Yeah. And many different religious traditions. So I like to entertain the thoughts, but again, like I'm not so sure if what Pythagoras said is true or objective. Yeah. But the spirit behind is that everything's vibrating.
I mean,
in the universe.
String theory is kind of saying exactly that too, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I don't know. I'm not a physicist, but I would say it seems like if strings are the fundamental component of all reality, all things, even the things we think are inanimate, then it follows from that the whole universe is vibrating. Right. Even inanimate things.
Wasn't there a philosopher that said that motion is like impossible? You'll get to the door halfway.
Yeah, that's a fun one to do in class, right? Was that Zeno or is that Parmenides? I think it's Zeno's paradox, right? Okay. So for all the people at home that want to hear a crazy philosophical idea, if you think about the door over there, in order to get to the door, you have to go halfway. Right? Right. Do you agree with that? And then to get to the door again, what do I have to do?
Go halfway.
Halfway. But then, imagine I was still trying to go to the door. What would I have to do? Again, halfway. So I'll never get to the door. Okay. Because I always have to go halfway. Now, I mean, this is kind of kooky, but crazy. But what do you think's wrong with that? What was he trying to? Where did he go wrong? You think?
Why not go all the way?
All the way. Yeah, that's the answer, folks. Go all the way. The door is in front of you. Enter it now.
This seems so simple.
It's so simple. But this is the thing. It's the difference between empirical reality and things we have in our minds. Because sometimes in our minds things can be true and they're not real in existence. Right. In our actual experience of things. That's really what tells me that example. If everybody's sleeping at home, sorry, I won't do any of those.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it is.
Think about.
It's fun, and that's the cool thing with philosophy, and that's probably why I really wanted to teach it, is because it introduces students, everybody, to these ideas, and it makes us pause, I think the world needs to take a little break and have a little bit more pause about what we think we know, about what we think is right, about how the world should be.
It's more doubt and critical thinking.
More doubt and critical thinking, and I can't say I cotton on to all of that because there can be paralysis through analysis sort of thing. So that can happen in doses. And I don't think there's any path that's just the only way. But most certainly, being absolutistic about our experience or about what has to be or what should be doesn't seem in history to work out too well. Because there's other people who have different thoughts and then they have conflict. Right. So, that's kind of the history of the world. Yeah. Wait, you don't think what I think? Well, I know I'm right. I must kill you. I must kill you now. Sort of thing, yeah.
Huh. That's funny.
Yeah. What else we got?
All right. Well, that was a nice philosophical tangent, but let's get back to you specifically.
Oh, okay.
I'm just curious, where did you go to college, and kind of what were you doing when you were 20 years old?
Oh, yeah. Oh, boy. I can't remember yesterday what I had for breakfast. I would say, so I grew up in Long Beach, California.
Oh, yeah?
I went to junior high with Snoop Dogg.
No way.
I did, yeah.
No way.
I mean, the rumor is, like, I taught him how to beatbox, but I totally didn't. There's no way. He learned himself. But no, we used to beatbox at lunch. I mean, I didn't know him after that. I tried to call him. He said, I don't know you. But it was like, I went to school with him. And then, in Long Beach, I went to junior college, saved money, and I played water polo. So I got to play water polo in Hawaii.
Really?
Yeah, and that was great at Chaminade University. I just would study philosophy. It was a great place to study philosophy.
In Hawaii?
In Hawaii, it was great, yeah.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah, so I mean, that was my youth, it was, it's hard to, here's the thing, like, you talk about your past, it's like, it's always going to be selective, like, like, I went here and I did that, it's just kind of strange to recall it, but that's pretty much, I was a student athlete, and I really studied philosophy, and this is the time where I said, like, I don't know if I look at these other giants, intellectual giants. I could never be that. But look, if you want a goal, if you aim for a goal and you want it, start producing the habits to get better. That's Aristotle, right? We learned that in class. Just go for it, but then create the habits. But there's a lot of self-doubt. So I had a lot of self-doubt when I was younger. I didn't grow up in an intellectual climate. My parents didn't go to college. My mom was an artist. She was a very great artist. But never really encouraged to like study or anything. My mom's like, just get B's, you'll be fine. Okay, Mom, thanks. But so I mean, like, youth is all about exploration. It's all about uncertainty. So if there's any youngins out there, I'd say, look, if you're going towards a goal, just start doing the work that you need to do to get to the goal, right? That's Aristotle. Yeah. So that's kind of like what happened with me, and I still have doubts. Everybody does. And when we talk about music, like if you look at Beethoven, like what he wrote, I mean, he always is scratching out everything. He had so much doubt, self-doubt. And now we say Beethoven had doubt? That's crazy. Doubt's okay, but just like, keep pushing. So that's kind of what happened. And then I guess I'm here. It moved around a lot, I mean, because philosophy, you just don't look into classified ads and go, hey, there's another one popping up. I can be a philosopher. It's kind of a joke. Like Walt Whitman, he saw a thing in a paper once that said poet needed for hire, and he applied. It's sort of like with philosophy, it's sort of kind of funny. But anyway, here's the thing. When you go towards a goal, this is what I learned, and it may not work out for other people in their experience, but when you really want to go and you create the habits and you put in the work to try to attain it, you surround yourself with other people of like mind or similar minded who will help you along the way, and that's something that people don't realize. If you say to yourself, I can't do that, well, if you go towards it, it's sort of like if you have a fire, right? And it's like, I'm so cold, I can never be warm. Well, why don't you walk towards the fire? And you'll start to have warmth. Same sort of thing with a goal or with other people you'll find. Yeah. Like I tell a lot of people who are going to law school, they have a lot of doubt. It's like, just be there and just, put yourself in the climate and surround yourself, right, with people. And doors will open up you never even imagine. Like with your gig here, keep putting yourself into that, and you'll see these doors opening. It'll be great.
Yeah, I think I already have.
Yeah, that's great. See, you see an experience. And so that's wonderful to be able to do that. But that's the thing, is when you move after goals, it turns out that, you start to see how important not just other people are in your life, but how you can affect other people's, if you're going with a certain sort of passion and desire for the activity or for the goal or the career.
It inspires the people around you to do the same.
It can, right? It's very, absolutely. It's very contagious. Like, I wrote a book on empathy.
I was going to ask you, you've written like several books.
Well, some of them I had one on the history of race concept in philosophy, and then like Trump got elected, so I just said, okay, I'm going to see how this all works, and then I'll publish it. Maybe I still haven't published that one, but the empathy book, one of the things I found out is like a lot of times our emotions, our feelings, our senses of things, even our ideas are very contagious, right? We catch them. So this is why, like in class, we talked about the importance of friendship. Yeah. Choose your friends wisely, because you'll probably catch some of their ways of being in the world. right? So if they're great friends, they're great people, you start to catch on through mimesis. That's what happens through copying or emulation. Like when you're around great people, I've been so lucky. At Emory, it's incredible people. In Berkeley, I met incredible people. And in Hawaii, the most incredible person I ever met, my mentor. And I just like, when I was around these great people, I just kind of like, my love for their greatness, it kind of like rubbed off on me almost accidentally. It's not like I tried to copy it. It's just like my love for their way of being in the world. It rubbed off, and it was contagious. So that's why, like, when you surround yourself with certain people, you will have the contagion effect, whether good or bad or indifferent.
But it will happen.
Chances are, yeah. Because we're mimetic creatures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you talked about those monkeys, the bobos?
Bonobos.
Bonobos. I found that very interesting. I didn't know about those. But
yeah.
Upright,
I had a really great, and that's another great person I got to experience in Emory, Franz Duvall, who worked at Yerke's center there, and we co-taught a class together, and it was just a wonderful experience. I learned so much. But yeah, the bonobos, not many people know about it, right? When you think about like all the different sorts of narratives about evolution and such, not too many people talk about them.
Yeah. And
they're very interesting creatures. If y'all, go ahead and Google it, folks. We're not lying. If it's on Google, it must be true. Bonobos, B-O-N-O-B-O.
Yeah.
Just really they call them the hippie apes, right?
Yeah.
Very peaceful.
It's cool.
Very, we won't go too much into it because we're on radio. You can find out, folks, on your own internet channel.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, but it's just like, that's the thing. It's like, part of our nature is this mimetic reality.
Right.
Like, for instance, just again, going back to primates, like if you put a primate up to a video of another primate yawning,
they'll yawn.
So it's like contagion, right? And that actually is in humans too.
Totally.
Everyone's trying to yawn right now. I guarantee you somebody out there in Radio Land just yawned. Because it is contagious. It's strange. I don't know if maybe you have to be in person or closer or see it, but there are certain things that are woven into us through evolution. And there's beautiful things. There's better angels of our nature, and there's not so good ones.
Yeah. And it's in all of us, and that's the fun part about being philosophical is like questioning those things that you notice in yourself. Right?
That's right. Yeah, we all have, and that's the thing that's interesting. Always for me is like, this is what the Stoics talked about. It's like, look, the worst thing that can happen to you is not to be killed or a victim. It's to become a bad person. That's an interesting thought, right? And that's the greatest fear I have. Like, I don't care. I die. Okay, it'd be tragic. I think some people might miss me for a while and then get over it. But like, the point is, like, I don't want to become, because we all could become. You know what I'm saying? When you recognize that we all could be, in some way or another, a vicious person.
Yeah.
Or become habitually vicious. That is what we should fear. Not death. But because this is the ancients, right?
Yeah.
But a vicious person. It's a very different way of thinking.
If everyone thought that way, though, the world might be a better place.
Yeah, maybe. There's a lot of context and circumstances that shape people's perceptions, so I don't know if it's good or bad. It depends sometimes. But, I mean, definitely it's a worry that I have, just like, because I know it's within me. Like turning, it's like to the dark side, Luke, that sort of thing. It's real.
Yeah,
and it is.
It's in all of us. Like
that whole idea when he, his hand, is like part machine now. And Luke Skywalker. We're trying to be profound about Luke Skywalker here, but it's like
perfect. That
part of the machine. Like he didn't think he was like that, but it became him as far as whatever happened.
Well, be virtuous and don't do that.
Yeah, be virtuous. And that's a whole nother area of arena of things to think about. Like, what does that mean to be virtuous? Like, and like, you don't want a virtue signal. So the ancients thought very simply, it's like virtue is excellence. If you see, like, I think we talked about in class, like a violinist is a virtuoso. Well, that comes from that ancient concept of being great. So virtue means, really, for the ancients, being excellent at some activity. That is it. And then later, with Christianity and Shakespeare and all that, virtue, and because of Aristotle, meant only moral virtues, like being kind, being just, right? These are more moral issues, or moral virtues, but virtue is excellence in anything. Running, playing a sport, excellence, that's all virtue. And so, like, for someone like the Stoics, they would say, there's only one thing that's good, and that's excellence, that's virtue. Strive towards it. You're going to have a lot of problems getting there, but once you realize that that is it, and you have the capacity to become that, then do it. That's like going back to what we were talking about before.
Then you have a direction to walk your path in.
You have a direction, that's right. Yeah. And just getting on the path, like jump on the bike and go.
Yeah.
That's the best. Get it started. Like, it's like, it really is. Like when you think about it, a child getting on a bike, they don't want to do it. It's scary. Maybe I need my training wheels back. And then you can see them beaming when they finally get it.
Right.
The balancing act of that or of anything in life. So, yeah.
Yeah, becoming excellent at it is...
Becoming excellent. It's all around us. It's always there at any time. And people are going to have different standards of what that means, What might be excellent for me might be relative to some other ways of judging, obviously.
Yeah.
You think about, like, the Olympics. It's a perfect example, It's like the divers, whatever the people dive, they can be like 10, 10, 10, and then the French judge 7.5. So it's totally relative, It is complete relative a lot, but... Yeah, the whole point of it, I think, what philosophy teaches is just getting on the path and start doing the habits, and then what may.
I dig it.
Yeah.
Well, something much less deep point, but on excellence.
My head was hurting.
I would just like to point out that the people I sit with in your class, we all love when you walk into class. Like. You walk into class like you're an NFL player walking into the Super Bowl.
Nice.
You got an awesome trench coat or a pea coat on and a scarf and your sunglasses and your earbuds. It's awesome. I was just
that's so cool.
Where'd you develop that style? Like
I don't
you always
know,
dress
man.
like that?
What can I say? What can I say?
You look
I don't know. I think it's probably I wear sunglasses to hide my eyes so people can't see into my soul. But I don't know. I never really was conscious of it.
Yeah.
I guess I must have like this a natural style. What can I say?
It shows, man.
But no, I do, there is something about the entrance into a place like I do enjoy.
Yeah.
Like there's a cool spirit just walking into a classroom, knowing like, okay, here we go.
Right.
Again, it is like a pregame sort of thing. Like you're here, you prepared. Like we're talking about like. Tonight there's a basketball game here. We're ranked 19th. These folks have prepared immensely. They've done so much work, and then they get to the game, and it's time to do it.
And they do the same thing before the game as they do every game.
That's right.
Like and you walking into class.
So people can say what they want about athleticism, but that is a perfect example of like how you achieve excellence in anything. Mm-hmm. You just keep doing it. You want to become better at music, you keep playing the guitar. You want to become better at something else, you keep doing it. Whatever the activity, it's there for you. It's possible.
You got to do it and not be afraid to fail at it.
Not be afraid. I'll tell you what. Like I might walk in with all cool and collected and looking sweet with my major sunglasses, but like when I first started that, I was nervous. I remember a friend wanted me to do his wedding. You know how you get like you become a pastor online. so I did that. Yeah, for him. I don't know. I'm not practicing anymore. But anyway, so I had this paper, and I remember like this is like my 20s, like shaking.
Yeah.
There's only like 12 people there. It's like what I'm saying. So doing also helps you overcome the fear, like public speaking.
Right.
Everybody should be a little bit like when I first started public speaking. I would always be worried, like, well. What are people thinking? Am I saying it right? Now, look at me talking here. I don't know. I'm just blah, blah, blah. You just get used to it. It just becomes you. Yeah. Like you become it. And so there's not as much fear, for better or for worse. Depends on it depends how the thoughts or the words encircle with other people's ears, whether it's very beneficial or not.
The Stoics would say, though, in every case, those fears are much worse in your head than what they would actually be in reality, right?
Yeah,
like you mess up your public speaking, and the outcome is much worse in your head than it is.
It is true, yeah. Unless, of course, you were shaking like me. But no, that's right. And then it's also like, it's just before. It's like whenever I have to speak in front of like large audiences, like you're nervous even now a little bit. But once you're doing it, you're not really, because I think people can plan too much. Like I have to say this and have to say that.
Yeah.
Just let the spirit take you. And, the more you do it, the easier it is for that to happen.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, so that's my pregame. Yeah, I just kind of walk up and.
On another topic of your in-class presence.
Oh boy, yeah.
Now
I'll be all nervous, man. we're walking like, who's looking at me?
We're critiquing everything. No,
okay.
Not really. But my friends and I, we work out. Lifting is one of our hobbies, and we noticed that you look like you lift. So earlier when you said that you don't go to the gym that often, that's very surprising.
Well, I was training for the 2000 American Pan Am Games. No, I mean, like, I do it mostly for psychological reasons. It's just really good. Like, if you're depressed, go run. You won't be depressed that long. Go run a mile. You're like, so tired. Like, what was I thinking about?
Exactly.
So, I do try to work out, at the gym. Pump some iron.
Yeah.
But it's mostly just for, just to keep psychologically healthy. Okay. It really can transform you, just like even going on the bike. I mean, it naturally creates endorphins and all these other great things. I think even oxytocin, I don't know. But anyway, just a wonderful thing, if you can do it. Even a little bit of movement, I like walking a lot, although not in the Pullman snow as it is today.
No.
But
pretty to look at from here, though.
Walking is a really great way to get that reflection in because, you can have some music and stuff, but you're not being bombarded with all these things that we talked about at the beginning, like all these distractions. Nietzsche said, all great thoughts come by way of walking. That's really neat. Go take a walk. If you have a dilemma and you think about it, go walking. Aristotle's school was called the Peripatetic school. I don't know if we covered that in class. It's the walking school. Peripatei means walk in Greek. So Aristotle was such a, I was going to say a bad word. He was so awesome that he would just walk around and talk, and then everybody would take notes. You got to be pretty awesome.
You're getting followed around, just walking and talking.
Yeah. It's like, write this down, young man. Okay.
And he just walked. And then jailed for the influence you had on the people that.
Oh yeah. Well, that's a funny story about Aristotle. The fun thing is, like, Socrates was jailed Socrates was killed for corrupting the youth.
Right.
And then Aristotle, after Socrates was killed, was arrested. They're going to kill him.
Yeah.
And remember, Socrates was able to escape, and he said, I will not escape. I will not go against the laws. When Aristotle happened, he goes, I'm out of here. And he had this great, sophisticated, in the true sense of the word, quote, Athens shall not sin twice against philosophy. He just wanted to keep living.
Yeah.
It's funny.
Well said, though.
But yeah, if sometimes you just never know how things are going to be taken. But, a lot of great people who stand up for justice, really. Think about, so many people are just killed, right? It's like, love, peace, I have a dream, and then we kill. It's like, it's insane, like how that even happens. It's just, you wouldn't think it, right? But, I remember different stories about different thinkers and great people. They realize they're on the edge, when they're really going against injustice or certain power structures. They realize their life is like a feather on the back of your hand in the wind. You could be blown away at any moment when those people are at that moment, at that crossroads between, should I say something against injustice or should I be quiet and continue to live? That really happened with Aristotle and Socrates, and I think a lot of people, Martin Luther King, even John Lennon, similar things.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I just got like one or two more questions for you. This is a fun one.
Good. I thought all of them were fun.
Well, I don't know. Here it is.
Yeah.
If you could play one song for the entire world to hear at the same time, what song would you choose? Like, what song do you think?
Do I have to sing it?
No, you don't have to.
Everybody would go. They would hate it. One song. Well, that's really tough. I mean, I don't think it'd be a song. I think it'd be a piece.
Okay.
A piece of music.
Okay.
Probably Harmonies of the Evening by Liszt.
Okay.
Or, I don't know, so many great ones. But again, like, this is so relative to purpose and...
Yeah. It's like, what would you want to say with one...
Harmonies of the Evening by Liszt. It's number 11 on the Transcendental Etudes.
Okay.
I would prefer to have it played by Jorge Bolle.
Okay.
You can look that up on Google, too.
I'll play a little bit when I edit this interview later.
Oh, good.
I'll put the song.
Yeah.
So
awesome.
why would you choose that one? What about it?
That's just the first one that came to mind. It could be Tomorrow. It could be like Dark Side of the Moon or something. It's like, it just depends, but
I like it.
it's just the first one that happened to, I have to think about right now. There's a certain sort, here's the thing, okay, this the last couple things about music, is that music is fundamentally transformative. It's an echo of all the vibrating reality of nature.
Mm-hmm.
It really is. So it transports you. How do you want to be transported? If I'm in a party, I want to be transported, so I dance, you know, or have fun with friends and smile. If I want to deep dive into the depth of my soul or like the nature of things and kind of lose myself in a mystical trance, I'd probably choose something else, you know?
Yeah.
And that's what I think, you know, it comes down to just sound. Like, those states are pretty amazing. I mean, it's religious, you know, it is really, I think fundamentally religion is transport. At least the goal of religion is to transport you out of the banal reality into some sacred thing. I mean, we can talk more about that some other time. But like, yeah, for that piece of music, for Liszt, I'd say that all 12 of them, I would just listen to all of them. It definitely can transport you. If you sit with it and listen, I think it affects everybody, if you have the patience to do it. But then again, like, it will be different for anybody. Everybody will have a different way of transport, you know, and that's great.
Awesome answer.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so here's the last question. This whole like podcast was kind of inspired by another podcast I've listened to in the past called Ologies by Ali Ward.
Oh, cool.
And she interviews professionals of very specific ologies.
Oh, okay.
Like, there is an expert on sunken ships.
Oh, cool.
There's an ology on it, and she will.
Yeah, that's neat.
She'll interview him, right? Yeah. So super cool, and that's why I have like professors like yourself on and get to talk about what you teach. But the question that she asks all of her guests at the end of the interview is, what's one thing you love and hate about your job?
Oh, wow.
So what is one thing you love, but also one thing you hate about being a philosopher?
Wow. Okay, looks like we gotta go, folks. See ya. No. Shoot. I mean, look, I don't think I hate anything about it. I mean, there's always drudgery in any work, but I don't really think about it. I think the thing that I love, I'm not going to answer your question, you can tell, but I would just talk about the love for it, because I just focus on that. Look, when you're in the moment like we're in right now, it's like a holy moment. I don't know what's going to come out of my mouth. I don't know what you're going to say, and it's conversation. And when you can have a friend or talk to somebody at a deep level, that's just like a very, very powerful experience. So philosophy, I get to do that a lot. You know, I get to talk to people and hear what they say. Like, I know what I think. I know what these philosophers thought. What do you think? So teaching philosophy is wonderful, because it's like, it's very shamanistic. I mean, really, it is. And I don't know
what
how
does shamanistic mean?
Well, I mean, like, you know, the shaman is guiding people through different sorts of psychic experiences to transform, right? So all these ideas of philosophy are great for that sort of purpose. They're transformative. If I were to teach another thing, it's, you know, it's just like, okay, memorize this and now regurgitate it back to me, you know. But with philosophy, it's the experience of conversing, having discourse with others, that I find to be really lovely and very life affirming, because we're all in this together, you know? Yeah. And let's talk about it.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Hey.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks so much.
This has been amazing.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. You've been listening to KZUU 90.7 FM Pullman. We're a broadcast service of the ASWSU. This is concluding episode 9 of What's New Wazzu, featuring Dr. Fagiano. Thank you again for being here. We'll be back next week with another interview, so take it easy.
Thank you all.